This is the pre-meeting chit chat that we're doing right now, and you testing out your presentation and so on.
And Dan, can you see what I have up?
Yes, I can see what you have up.
Okay.
It's not full screen, but it's about half screen, but I can see it. Did you get, do you want to make Wendell's announcement when we get started, John?
Oh, about, let's see.
Oak Cliff Earth Day?
Let's see, I think. Huh.
Well, anyway, we'll mention it when we get to the announcement.
I have Earth Day here. Why?
There's something there, yeah.
It's not displaying.
It is right now.
It is now, but it's not on the regular one. I don't know what happened. Let me start it again. There we go. Okay. I do have a slide about it.
So, Robert Kent. Hello, Robert.
Star is muted. Yes, sir.
Is the Trust for Public Lands regional headquarters still in Santa Fe?
Well, we do have an office in Santa Fe. I'm based in Dallas, and the Texas headquarters is in Dallas.
Okay, do you have a regional office?
No, not per se. So we've kind of reorganized in recent years. So the Dallas office would be the closest thing to a regional office.
Okay. I worked at Parks and Wildlife for 20 years. I worked a few times with a guy who was out of Santa Fe. I can't remember.
What was his name?
I can't remember his name. That's been a long time ago.
Michael Patrick, by chance?
That doesn't sound familiar. Probably before him.
Yeah.
This would have been in the 80s.
Oh, that would have been a bit before my time. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I'm all before your time. Every part of me is before your time.
Yeah, I have some memories of the 80s.
I know you were a baby.
Say, Dan, I want to ask you, when were you doing that research in the Hawaiian Islands, the far northwest little spit of an island? When was that?
1979 and 80.
Okay. Oh, you were there. How long were you there?
I was there 5 months in 79 and another 5 months in 80.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
They're going to ask you about that at the meeting you'll have next month.
The Native Prairie Society?
Yes. I told them all about you.
That's not the topic they chose.
No, but questions afterwards, they'll ask you about all your experiences in the Hawaiian Islands.
Oh. Well, I hope they have a couple of hours.
You might have to have a slideshow about that.
I can give them that slide talk some other time if they want it.
Well, you'll have to ask them. I was just there and mentioned it. That's all.
Okay. Are you a member of that group?
Yeah.
Okay.
God,
You're in everything, aren't you?
I wish I was in other things. I really enjoy everything that I do. I really want to do the things that I would really like to do, if that makes any sense. I've said this before.
Well, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Most of us would like to do the things we want to do.
Yeah.
Hey, Renee.
Yeah.
Could you give us a brief review of what is going on with Omicron down at the hospital?
Well, they just had it on the news. The admissions are down, and they're attributing a lot of it to the cold. We're not seeing as many people coming in with COVID, but there's still a large number of people in the hospital with it, and they're not vaccinated.
What do you mean attribute it to the cold?
There was a correlation with the cold, and it seems like when it got colder, the admissions went down.
They just didn't feel like going outside.
I think if I'm not mistaken, I think COVID actually likes the heat.
Okay.
Inflation was running at a well below national average, 4.2%.
Somebody has got their speaker on and we're hearing some kind of program. Okay, it stopped. Arthur?
Yes.
I checked the mailbox not too long ago and we only had one piece of junk mail.
Okay, no.
I'll
Thank you.
check it again before too long.
Okay.
Now, what is this, John? We're flying electric helicopters. Oh, I see. It's a political commentary. Ugh.
That's permitted sometimes, isn't it?
Well, I guess at the risk of offending any of our Republican members, if we have any Republican members. Just a minute while I tell my daughter to keep her remarks to herself.
Well, Arthur, is the trip completely filled, or did you guys?
Yep, it's full.
You got that last space, huh?
I believe so. Yeah, so we're heading out. I'm leaving town about 5 o'clock in the morning.
Can't remember, how long does it take to drive out there? 7 hours?
About 10 hours,
10. Okay.
9 or 10, depends on how much you stop. But, I've got an extra 45 minutes because I'm east of town.
Oh, that's right.
So, Mr. Kent, how long have you been with the Trust for Public Land?
I joined in 2014, so about 7 years now.
Sam?
No. Thank you.
Okay.
Coming up on 8 years.
Are there other people in the Dallas office?
We've got a good little team here, 5 people locally, and then we've got a few folks across the state as well. Land protection project manager based in New Braunfels. We do some work with a woman out of Colorado who supports our fundraising, and we have some marketing people based in Austin as well. Now, is that Ken Coutant I see?
That is correct.
As in Greg Coutant's dad?
That is correct.
As in Scoutmaster Mr. Coutant, who I don't think I'd ever dare to call you Ken in person.
You can call me Ken, if I can call you Robert.
It's good to see you. I was in Boy
See you
Scouts
too.
with Ken's son, Greg, years back.
Long time ago.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
I'm anxious to hear what you're up to and what you've got going on. So carry on.
Here, thank you.
So you're from the Dallas area, Robert?
Born and bred. Right here in Texas, right here in Dallas. Lake Highlands High School. My wife and our family live over by White Rock Lake for now, but I reckon probably the gravity of Lake Highlands to people that grew up in Lake Highlands is pretty strong. So I reckon it's not too long before we'll be heading up that way again.
I was looking at the website for this and for the trust, and I'm very impressed with the projects that you have going on here in Dallas. It's quite a bit.
Thank you. Yeah, we've had a lot of good work accomplished here, I think, over the last few years, which I'll get to share with you all some of that exciting work today, particularly our 5 Mile Creek project.
Yes. And I noticed that you had one in Oak Cliff. I didn't get to read up on that one, but Dan mentioned it a little while ago about the Earth Day coming up April 3rd. The Sierra Club will be having at Oak Cliff Park, I believe, the Earth Day celebration for actually the entire city.
Oh, that's great. Is that the one that's held at Lake Cliff Park?
Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Let me mute this.
Okay, John, it's after 7. Why don't you put up the that agenda again, and we will get going. Okie dokie. So we have just completed our pre-meeting social gathering. And now I'm going to welcome you all to the monthly general meeting of the Dallas Sierra Club, which we have been doing via Zoom for, 2 years? And we're hopeful that perhaps this coming April, we'll be able to meet again live at Brookhaven College. We have a contract for the room that we used to have, so we're crossing our fingers that that will be okay. We're going to be getting some more guidance from National Sierra Club this month sometime. Isn't that right, Arthur?
Yep.
So then we'll find out what their take is on in-person meetings. Okay, let's jump to our committee reports at this time. And I see that Victoria is here. She can give us a brief report on the Conservation/Ecoaction Committee and what they've got going on. Are you ready, Victoria?
I am, Dan. Lovely to see you all. Thank you very much. I don't have much to report this month about Conservation Ecoaction. We're in holding patterns on a couple of the big projects we've been working on, complaining about batch plants, attending TCEQ meetings, so on and so forth. But I would just remind everyone to either join our email list, which you can find at the DallasSierraClub.org website, or join us on Facebook, because there's always announcements and things going on and ways that you can help, whether you're at home or out and about. So thank you, Dan. That's all I've got today.
Okay, and are you referring to your committee monthly newsletter that you send out? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, sir. You can find that up there on the website with
Right.
About Us, if you hit the About Us tab.
And they can, you must have a mailing list for that, right? Because I get it.
Yes.
every
Yes.
month.
It's on, yes. If you register and sign up online, it puts you on the mailing list.
Okay, good. Well, I don't think that David Griggs is here yet tonight. I don't know if he ever will be, but at any rate, the big news is that David teaches as an adjunct at Brookhaven, and he has been negotiating our contract that we used to have a contract and it got cut short. So he got us credit for the months we hadn't used. And that contract should be in force, as I said, starting in April. And then we hope to have the in-person meetings again at Brookhaven. Liz, is Liz Whelan here? I don't think she is.
No, she's not. I guess Arthur, could you do that?
Yeah, sure. Won't say anything about ICO. That's Liz's department, but that's Inspiring Connections Outdoors, which is our outreach group. And so if you have any interest in that, just contact Liz and she can help you out with that. On outings, we're heading out tomorrow for Big Bend, our annual trip that got killed last year, but we're doing it. And we've got a full trip and everybody's really looking forward to that, getting back down to Big Bend. So got that going, and we just had a leader training weekend up at Eisenhower State Park on Lake Texoma. It was very successful, so we hope to have some new leaders going and getting some new trips on the books as soon as basically we're able to. COVID has obviously killed our outings program for quite some time, but we're going to try to get it started to be ramped up again this year. So that's all.
Okay, and Renee, before you introduce Robert, our speaker tonight, could you mention what the program is going to be for March?
Sure. March will be Catherine Bazan, and whatever help I can input I have for her. It's going to be about the commission, the climate commission that's been formed, and some of the work we've done, that she's done, some of the new things we're trying to put in place. And that will give you an idea. Each district the goal is for each district to have its own climate commissioner. And we're not quite there yet, but we would like to we want input, and she'll be explaining to you how you can go about joining the meeting. We meet the second Friday of each month. And so we meet this Friday. And there's a section where citizens can have comments. We try to limit it. And that's what she'll be talking about in CCAP. And then April will be the Big Bend trip that they're about to take, be the pictures for it. And just the fun that I know they're going to have, and they're going to present that to us.
Okay, and before we introduce Robert, I see Liz has checked in. Liz, do you have anything you want to say about ICO?
No, just I'm looking for volunteers. So if you're interested in helping us get underserved kids out into nature, please contact me. It would be a great time to get on board. And I will say we just had one cancellation for Big Bend, but most of the people are leaving tomorrow. So I doubt that it's time for anybody on board or here to fill in. But if you think that might be a possibility, let me know ASAP, like in the next couple hours.
Okay, I think now, Renee, we're ready to introduce Robert.
Okay, we are in for a treat tonight. Robert Kent is the state director for the Trust for Public Land. He's been with the organization about 7 or 8 years. When I met him, he was working in conjunction with Kathy Jack, the Dallas Nature Conservatory, and they were on this program planting trees. And the goal was to get rid of hot spots that mostly were located in southern Dallas County. So we all had a goal to plant trees and try to make things beautiful. He also is responsible for doing something that is, I'm not going to say impossible, but next to impossible. They placed a park in Joppy, and he looks at areas where things are negative, and he puts something there to make it beautiful. So he's going to talk about the project, the 5 Mile Project, which does just that. So without further ado, if we could see his presentation, and there's a film.
Thank you, Renee, and thank you to the Sierra Club for hosting me today to speak. I'm going to get my presentation pulled up here. All right, can everyone see this?
Yes.
Yes, I can see.
All right. Wonderful. Well, it's great to be visiting with you all today. As my memory serves, I think I may have actually spoken to this group 4 or 5 years ago, I want to say, at Brookhaven College, if that's right. But it's good to be back with you all today, despite the challenges that the last couple of years have posed with us. We're all still navigating this digital world and how to do everything on Zoom. It is good to see we're able to make it work. So as Renee shared, my name is Robert Kent, and I'm the Texas State Director for Trust for Public Land. We are a national nonprofit organization, and our mission is to connect everyone to the outdoors. Today, I'll talk a little bit about our national work across the country, and then share in depth what we're doing here in Dallas, our project along 5 Mile Creek, which Renee knows a little bit about, and share some of the great parks that we're building there. As I shared, our mission is this idea that everyone deserves to have access to close to home parks and nature. And we are working to make sure that everyone is connected to the outdoors by creating parks and protecting for people. We've been active for more than 45 years, working hand in hand with communities across the country. And we're trying to create new parks and public spaces that, frankly, everyone needs and deserves. We believe in this idea of outside for all. So regardless of where you were born, how much money you have, what the color of your skin is, what you believe politically, what your abilities are, what your zip code is, we believe that outside is for all, and everyone deserves to have access to the outdoors. We have a commitment to communities that's really centered on these 3 concepts. The first is health. We know that parks are essential to everyone's health and well-being. There's a whole body of research that shows when you spend time outdoors, you are happier and you're healthier, both physically and mentally. I became aware of a study out of the UK a few years ago that I've just been obsessed with. They tracked thousands of people over several years and asked them a couple questions. First was, how much time did you spend outdoors this week? And the second was, just on a 0 to 10 scale, how do you rate your health? And how do you rate your well-being? They found that people who spent at least 18 minutes a day in nature, so that's not that much, 18 minutes a day in nature outdoors, were significantly higher on that self-reported health metric. So the more time you spend outdoors, the healthier you feel. And what I like about that is we talk a lot about this idea of a 10-minute walk to a park. Everyone should have a park within a 10-minute walk of home, particularly if you live in a city. So 18 minutes a day in nature, that's 10-minute walk to the park, 10-minute walk back from the park, a little bit of time extra to spare there. When I think about where I want to live, my wife and I, we optimize. Where's the nearest park? We want to make sure we have that park within a 10-minute walk of home. We know that parks are a central part of building equity. They help level the playing field. And so we have a focus in our work of looking at communities that have been disinvested in, working in communities that for a variety of reasons do not have the same access to parks that they deserve compared to other parts of the city and other parts of the country. And so that's part of our commitment to equity. And finally, as the Sierra Club well knows, the climate is changing, not for the better. And we know that parks are an essential part for how we can address this critical challenge of climate change that our country and our world is facing right now. Whether it's helping to combat the urban heat island effect, like Renee talked about earlier, absorbing stormwater that comes from more floods, or sequestering carbon to help get carbon out of the atmosphere. Parks are a critical piece to that equation. So every park we build is really centered around how can it improve health, how can it build equity, and how can it fight climate change. We've got a pretty great track record. I'm humbled to get to work for an organization that has done so much amazing work across the country. By our count, we've got over 5,000 parks across the United States that we've helped build. We've generated over $80 billion in public funding through bond measures and other public policy measures that we've supported. And today, there's about 3 million acres of land that have been protected thanks to the work that we've done. So 3 million acres of new parks and nature areas that we've helped create. Most importantly, we have put more than 9 million people within a 10-minute walk of a park that we've created. And this is something that I really love about the Trust for Public Land. At the center of all our work is people. We know that people are part of the solution for how we're going to address these big thorny issues that our world is facing. A lot of times it can be easy to say, if we just got rid of the people, the problem would go away. But the reality is we're not getting rid of the people. There's 7 billion of us in the country or in the world and counting. And so we've got to find solutions that put people at the center of them. And we believe that people are at the center of the work we do with Trust for Public Land, which is why every project we work on always has an element of how can it connect with people. One of the projects we've been really proud of is this Green Schoolyards work. So it got started in New York City, where we looked around New York and we said, gosh, there's hardly any park access in the city. How can we develop new parks? There's not a lot of land that could be purchased for new parks, but there were a lot of schoolyards. And so over the last 30 years or so, we've actually built over 200 what we call green schoolyards in New York City. This is where we take that schoolyard, maybe it's a parking lot that has some, basketball striping on it, and we convert it into a park, like you see here on the left of this slide, that has a walking trail, that has a green area, that has a vegetable garden. And that's actually expanded Timonowalk Park access to almost 750,000 of New York residents. We're doing that here in Dallas as well, in partnership with the Texas Trees Foundation, with the Park Department, and with Dallas ISD, working on 20 campuses across the city to make those campuses open to the public after hours for park space. But there's still a lot of work to be done. Today, still in America, 100 million people, including 28 million kids, do not have a park within a 10-minute walk of home. So that's about a third of the country does not have access to a park within walking distance of their home. And, right, left, red, blue, green, whatever your political persuasion is, I think we can all agree that kids deserve a safe place to play within walking distance of where they live. And that's why we work so hard to emphasize that message with our city government, our county government, our state government, and the national government, that they need to put their resources and our resources behind closing this park gap so that everyone can have a safe place to walk out the door and get to and enjoy the benefits that come from nature. Our goals are focused, and we don't shy away from the enormity of the cause. We've been really bold in what we are trying to, the change we're trying to affect across the country by bringing parks access for all. And like I shared earlier, we've made some pretty impressive strides, and we're working to continue that. By 2025, we want to work with over 300 communities and improve the quality of life for more than 85 million people. I love this slide here. This gives you a little before and after of some of the work that we do. This is one of the schoolyards I mentioned. This counted as a playground. This is in Philadelphia, if you can believe that. And that's what it looks like today after we've been involved with it. So really taking over a real transformation of these places. So enough about our work across the country. I'm going to shift our focus to talk about our work here in Dallas. So if you're familiar with the city of Dallas, the Trinity River is the main river that drains the whole city for watershed. And there's a lot of creeks that feed into the Trinity River. I grew up in Lake Highlands. As Sharon earlier, Ken Coutant, he was a scoutmaster of mine in Boy Scouts, and I've got many a fond memory of traipsing up and down creeks all over North Texas with the Boy Scouts and with his son Greg back in the day. And where I grew up, we had White Rock Creek down the street from our house. And so I spent many a sunny afternoon exploring the creek and getting on my bike and riding down to White Rock Lake. I really took that for granted, that was certainly a privilege to have that type of amenity right where I lived. And so when I came into this role with the Trust for Public Land, we started looking across the city of Dallas of where are there park gaps? Where are the parts of the city that do not have park access? And one of those areas that was really glowing red for us on our map was southern Dallas in Oak Cliff, the area around 5 Mile Creek. 5 Mile Creek, as you can see in this map, basically drains southwest Dallas, and it stretches from Dallas Executive Airport and Redbird Mall in the west, and then flows to the east across those hills and valleys of southern Dallas and Oak Cliff until it finally meets the Trinity River near the Joppy Preserve and the Joppy community in southern Dallas. So in 2018 and 2019, we started working with the Dallas Park and Recreation Department and the landscape architecture firm TBG Partners to develop a master plan for 5 Mile Creek. We called it the 5 Mile Creek Urban Greenbelt, and it called for a network of parks and trails that followed 5 Mile Creek and its tributaries to expand park access for this part of the city of Dallas. The Dallas Park Department and the Park Board unanimously adopted the master plan in February of 2019, and we were off to the races. A little bit about the watershed. There's 186,000 people that live within the watershed of 5 Mile Creek. There's 56,000 of those people are children. About half the households are low income, 61% are African American, and 54% of the population doesn't, only 54%, I should say, has a park within a 10-minute walk of home. So that may sound like a lot, that may sound like a little. The city of Dallas averages about 74%. So about 74% of the city has a park within walking distance of home, but this part of Dallas is only at 54%. So I talked about our equity focus earlier, and this is one of those examples of that, where we've got a part of the city that is punching far below average compared to the rest of the city. And so we feel a strong commitment and a strong need to work in this part of Dallas to help overcome that gap and help bring that part of the city up to the level that it deserves to be compared to the rest of Dallas. If you're familiar with this part of Dallas, I think as Renee is, everyone agrees, you know, this is the most beautiful part of the city. It's got rugged and beautiful scenery, rolling hills. This image on the left is 5 Mile Creek. And then the image on the right, that's the Keys Conservation Area, which in the spring, they don't mow the lawn, they let it grow to full bloom, and it's just a riot of wildflowers, reds, purples, pinks, whites, yellows, greens, blues. Really a special place. So as we were developing this master plan, we created a vision statement to guide this work, which was centered on this idea of partnership with the community of Southern Dallas. We did not want to be this outside organization that parachutes in and says, here, you need a park, and then delivered it to them. Instead, we said, we want to do this in partnership with the really rich and vibrant community that makes up Southern Dallas. And there's many communities of people, to develop a new master plan with them that meets their needs, calling for an interconnected series of parks, trails, and green spaces that follows 5 Mile Creek and all the tributaries of 5 Mile Creek. This Greenbelt network will provide new recreational opportunities and unparalleled access to the natural beauty and hills of the hills and valleys of Southern Dallas. So as I said before, you know, partnership with the community is so important to what we did. And we spent, you know, the first several months of this process just listening. We did a very in-depth community engagement process that included 18 stakeholder interviews. We hosted public workshops and did a community survey as well to get as much input as we can on what parks, what people want to see in this new park network that we're proposing. As a result of that, we came up with this vision that you see here. A lot of different colored lines on here. I won't go into all the detail, except to say that what we're proposing is 23 miles of new trails that follows 5 Mile Creek and some of its tributaries. We're also proposing 125 acres of new parks in addition to those trails. And this would actually expand park access to an additional 86,000 people who didn't have park access before. What I love about this as well is that the trail we're proposing isn't just an isolated line. It will actually connect with the rest of the city's trail network at the Joppy Preserve on the east side of the map, and then at the Chalk Hill Trail on the northwest side of the map. And so you may have heard about the Loop Trail, which is this new trail loop being built in stretching from White Rock Lake down through South Dallas Fair Park, down through Pleasant Grove, and we're going to connect into that. So if you live in Oak Cliff, for the first time ever, you'd be able to get on your bike or your scooter or your stroller and connect into the rest of the city's trail network. So you truly are connected with the rest of the city of Dallas. So I'll talk a bit about where we are in this process. It's a really ambitious program. You know, it's no small thing to come in and propose, you know, 100+ acres of parks and a couple dozen miles of trails. But we said, you know, this is something we're committed to. We got to get started somewhere. So we started work on a phase 1 in 2018, 2019. The first project that we started working on is called Charles R. Rose Community Park. So this is located here in the Highland Hills neighborhood of Oak Cliff, which is near Paul Quinn College, just south of Loop 12 and I-45 off of Simpson Stewart Road. There's a vacant lot there that had native blackland prairie, a perennial creek running through it, and commanding views of downtown Dallas. We saw that, we said, gosh, this would be the perfect place for a new park. It's in a part of the city that doesn't have park access. We hosted community meetings, found a lot of support for it. And in June 2019, we were able to purchase that piece of land from the landowner. It was about a $3.7 million acquisition, and we were able to raise half of that purchase price from our philanthropic partners, some very generous donors based here in Dallas. And the city of Dallas contributed the other half of the funding through the 2017 bond program. So you all probably, hopefully, voted in favor of the Parks bond in 2017 when it was on the ballot, and your voting yes on that generated money that allowed us to come purchase this piece of land. Couldn't have done it without the bond program. For the last couple of years since then, we've been doing community engagement and design to develop a master plan for this new park. We really got started on that in earnest in 2020 in the middle of a global pandemic. So everything had to be virtual. We hosted a series of community meetings online. We partnered with State Representative Tony Rose and Dallas Councilmember Tanel Atkins to help publicize those meetings and host those meetings, which actually generated a pretty strong attendance. We had a couple hundred people attend. Which was wonderful because sometimes you do these in-person meetings and you struggle to get people to walk in the door. So we were thrilled to have so many people show up online. And what came out of that was this master plan that you see here. So the site is kind of shaped like a postage stamp. And throughout those community meetings, some themes that kept emerging. The first was unity, and the second was reunion. You know, in the fall of 2020, we were in the middle of a really contentious political debate over the future of our country. And I don't think it's any surprise that folks are saying, gosh, we need a place that just brings us together, unity. And so our design team with TBG Partners really tried to epitomize that concept through this loop that you see here on the map, this kind of big egg oval shape here. And
the irony is the Biden administration has failed on so many.
Sounds like we got someone who's not muted. If you wouldn't mind muting, thank you. So this loop here runs across the center of the park, and it's actually a crushed granite pathway that'll be lined with trees. It's about a half-mile walking loop, so you can have this perfect egg shape that you can walk side by side with somebody or with the community and really experience that unity together. The other concept that came out of the design meetings were reunion. The community told us that they needed a safe place to get together outdoors with family and friends, whether it's for a birthday party or a family reunion. Again, in the middle of a global pandemic, that wasn't surprising to hear. And so the park is anchored by what we're calling these two family plazas. Here, there's a North Family Plaza and then a South Family Plaza on the southern side. And they have two pavilions in each of them that are big enough to host big outdoor gatherings. We've been fortunate to partner with HKS, the global architecture firm, and they've agreed to design those pavilions pro bono for us. So we're getting some world-class design of those pavilions provided pro bono to the park. Some other features on the outside of the park is where we have all that blackland prairie, and not only will we be protecting it, but we'll be expanding it as well. So doing prairie restoration throughout the entire edge of the park. And then bisecting the park right across the middle is the creek. And we'll be providing opportunities for people to experience the creek by building trails and bridges that allow you to get close to the creek, you know, and see it up close and personal. The last thing I'll point out is here at the north west corner where it says 15, that is a pavilion, or sorry, an amphitheater, which could double as an outdoor classroom. And this is where you'll have that wonderful view of downtown Dallas. So you can see the skyline. That's something that the council member, Tanel Atkins, was really important to him. You know, he shared with us that a lot of his constituents, the folks who live in Highland Hills, don't always feel like they're connected with the rest of the city of Dallas. And so to have that view of downtown is a visual symbol to the neighborhood that you are a part of the city, and this city cares about you just like it cares about any other part of Dallas as well. And here's another rendering showing what that will look like from a bird's eye perspective. We are in the middle of finalizing our construction documents for the park. We hope to put it out to bid to a builder in the next month or so and break ground later this spring. If everything goes according to plan, this park will be open to the public to enjoy later this year. Here's one more perspective showing the view from the park. So the next project I'm going to talk about is the Woody Branch Conservation Park. So this is another park that's part of the 5 Mile Creek program. I shared how 5 Mile Creek has about a dozen tributaries that flow into it. One of those is the Woody Branch tributary, and it flows through the Glen Oaks neighborhood, as you see here on this map. This is Interstate 35 here, this highway running north-south, and this cloverleaf here is Loop 12. And this shopping center is the Walmart off of 35 and Loop 12 as you're heading south toward Waco. We were, kind of shocked actually to see that in the middle of the city, in the heart of one of the most densely populated parts of Dallas, there were over 80 acres of high quality, untouched forest that had not been developed, had not been cut down, had not been turned into Walmarts or houses or anything else. And so we immediately knew this has got to be something that is worth protecting. So in 2020, we were fortunate enough to get to know the landowner who owned that piece of land and talked to him. And he said he was actually interested in selling it to us for conservation outcome. We then worked with the city of Dallas and worked with them to tap into the city's Reforestation Fund. So you may be aware, if you are a developer in Dallas and you cut down a tree to build a project, you either have to replant a new tree somewhere, or you can pay money into a fund. And the city can use that money to either plant a tree or buy pieces of property that have trees on them. As it turns out, the city had never actually used that money to buy forested properties before. So we were the first project to come to them and say, hey, we've got this deal. We've got 82 acres of high quality forest on the banks of a creek. Could we use that reforestation fund to purchase this piece of land? And lo and behold, they said yes. The property is, truly beautiful. This is a picture of the creek as it runs through the property. I like to call this the only slot canyon in Dallas. If you've spent any time in Central Texas, this will look familiar to you as well. You can almost imagine someone with an inner tube and maybe a 6-pack of Coca-Cola or some other beverage of choice floating down the water, of course, taking their trash with them. This is one of the things that said, gosh, we have got to protect this piece of land for future generations to enjoy and benefit from. One of the things that was really special about this project is how it fits into the city's comprehensive environmental and climate action program. I'm sure y'all are aware that Dallas passed this program a couple of years ago, which has some ambitious goals around getting the city to carbon neutral and to fight climate change. And really proud to say that this piece of land has over 16,800 trees on it that captures about 3,700 metric tons of CO2 annually. So purchasing this piece of land to set it aside for conservation really ties in nicely with some of the goals the city has set out through the CCAP, Comprehensive Environmental Climate Action Plan. And on the timeline on this, we are in the middle of finalizing our design and development agreement with the city of Dallas. And we hope to start a community engagement process with the Glen Oaks neighborhood to help understand what their priorities are for their new park and come up with a design for the park that really meets their needs. Eventually, we'd like to see the park have some nature trails on it so everyone in Dallas and beyond can come enjoy it, as well as having some neighborhood amenities that benefit the Glen Oaks neighborhood. So finally, I'm going to talk about the smallest project in the 5 Mile Creek Greenbelt that was formerly called Alice Branch Creek, named after the Alice Branch of 5 Mile Creek that runs through the property. This is a 1.8 acre lot that's directly across the street from South Oak Cliff High School. In 2018, when we were working on the master plan for 5 Mile Creek, we got a phone call from the principal of South Oak Cliff, Dr. Willie Johnson. And he said, we've got this vacant lot across the street from the campus. It's been used as a dumping ground. There's a bunch of tires there. Kids cut glass there. The community would like to see it turned into some type of public green space that can benefit both the students and the neighborhood. Could you help? And, that's one of those fateful calls that, just changes the course of your work in ways you can't even imagine. And so from that phone call, we started attending neighborhood meetings, started attending PTA meetings, getting to know the community, and really seeing there's a lot of support for this idea. And in November 2019, we actually purchased that piece of land from the landowner with the intention to develop it into a park. Like all of our work, community engagement was at the center of the process, and we hosted, countless meetings to get public input on what people wanted to see for their new park. If you know anything about South Oak Cliff, besides the fact that they just won the state championship in football, it's that is a community that is powerful and strong and vocal. And nobody does anything in South Oak Cliff without the community putting their input into that process. So we had really strong participation from neighborhood. People showed up to our pop-up park festival, our design charrettes, community hikes, with all types of ideas on the things they wanted to see in the park. And this is the resulting master plan from that process. People really gravitated to this idea of having a space for education for the students, and a space of health and wellness for the residents of the neighborhood. So, the park is centered by a couple things. The first is on the left here, this is an outdoor classroom that has a pavilion shade structure for students to get to be there with their teachers. And there's a basketball court as well, so that kids can go play a pickup game of basketball. And then bisecting the park is this health and wellness trail that has health and fitness equipment along the trail, so that people can get exercise in while they're out there. And then we have some community amenities. This is a outdoor lawn just for a general gathering. We have some picnic areas here, grills and barbecue pits. And then in the back is the playground that includes a climbing wall that was donated by the North Face. Again, this is one of those things that was the direct result of community meeting. At one of our meetings we had in the neighborhood, there was a family that attended, and the mom raised her hand and said, I love what you're showing. This stuff looks great for the little kids, but I've got 3 children who are about to be teenagers. So can we include something in the park that'd be suitable for teens as well? And we asked, what do you have in mind? And the mom said, how about a rock climbing wall? And she talked about how, they had lived in California previously and they had these climbing walls in California. Coincidentally enough, we were that next week talking with the North Face. And so we pitched them on this idea. And they said, yeah, we would actually donate a rock climbing wall to the park. So, they committed to the donation. They even sent one of their professional athletes to work with students to help design that wall, a guy named Fred Campbell. And Fred is about to participate later this spring in the first all-Black crew to summit Mount Everest, called the Full Circle Expedition. And Southwood Cliff is about 90% Black. And Fred, as a Black man who's also a climber, it was really powerful representation for students at that school to see someone who looks like them and saying, yeah, you can be a rock climber too if you want to. And that's one of those pieces of feedback we got from the process that was really, really gratifying to hear. Another element of the park is solar powered lighting. Again, in the community meetings, people said the park has to be well lit. That's something that helps people feel safe. And so we got a grant from the Sun Club, which is the philanthropic arm of Green Mountain Energy, the power company. And they gave us funding to purchase about a dozen solar powered light poles that are in the park. The poles absorb solar energy throughout the day and then turn on through low wattage LEDs. They also have Wi-Fi as well. So they transmit a Wi-Fi signal throughout the park. And 2 of the poles have a CCTV system, which can help deter criminal activity in the park. So this was one of those special things that we got to install in the park, thanks to one of our partners. The park benefited from the philanthropic community in Dallas, and we've got nothing but gratitude for the 30 donors who contributed over $2 million to help make this park happen. We couldn't have done it without their support. And in November of last year, so just about 2 months ago, we celebrated the grand opening. I think that Renee was there, and maybe a few other folks on the call were there as well. This is actually Fred here, climbing the rock climbing wall. He came out for the grand opening and did a little demo for the students. Here we are cutting the ribbon with the community. And this is a picture from the groundbreaking just about a year and a half before that. I'm going to close by showing a video that shows what the park looks like today. So bear with me while I get that set up. Okay, can everyone see this screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
This park has been a long time coming. We've been working with the Southwood Cliff community for 3 years to help realize their vision for community green space that would improve their health, their education, and the safety of the neighborhood. And today we've delivered that. A
park is something that people just want to be in just because it's a park, it's play, it's fun, but also understanding that the park is the candy, but the medicine is the activity. Yeah, I'm gonna go out, enjoy, rock climbing, playing basketball, walking, discovering new animals or whatever creatures out there, but at the same time, them being active is healing their body. And that's something that's dire in our community, is to heal the physical body.
To be able to be a part of a project where an organization has come to the community and said, hey, we want to build this for y'all and we want your input, like that means like so much to me. And this is why I like working with Trust for Public Land.
The excitement of today, from walking this very narrow corridor to now seeing a park that community members walked with us and pointed to resources at. They said, I want this park to be here. I want the basketball goal there. I think we should have an amphitheater on that side. And oh, guess what? We want to see the creek back here. And we want Wi-Fi. We want to be able to make this a place where it's no longer an idea, but a resource in a growing community in a major city like Dallas.
When it comes to park space, South Oak Cliff finally didn't get the leftovers. You got the cream of the crop.
This 1.8 acre green space is just the start. Over the next 3 years, we're developing 125 acres of new parks across southern Dallas, all part of our 5 Mile Creek Urban Greenbelt Master Plan. Once complete, we will have built 3 new parks that will serve thousands of residents, connecting people to nature and to each other.
That's my presentation. So thank you for your attention, and I would be happy to answer any questions y'all have. And here's my email address if you want to email me afterwards as well.
Robert,
Okay.
I would just like to say thank you for that presentation and for the work you're doing. I was at the ribbon cutting, and I remember quite a few people, grown men, brought to tears at the microphone because of the work you had gotten to finish.
Thanks, Renee. Yeah, with myself being one of them.
Well, this is Dan Moulton. I've got a couple of questions for you, Robert, before I forget about them. When it comes to that, excuse me, rock climbing wall, was there any discussion about potential legal liability?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I'm not a landscape architect, so I should preface that, nor am I a lawyer. However, park design and playground design goes through a really rigorous process to understand fall zones, understand height, understand potential impacts, et cetera. And those rock climbing walls, it's amazing how much thought goes into where they're located in conjunction with the surfacing underneath. So if you're on top of that wall, it's actually physically impossible for you to fall off in a way that would hit concrete. You'll always land on one of our engineered surfaces underneath. That's basically 18 inches of what's called engineered wood fiber, and then there's some surfacing underneath that as well. So it's a pretty cushioned fall. I mean, look, I'm not going to say you won't break an arm maybe if you fell off the wrong way. There's always going to be some element of danger, but those risks are mitigated enough that the city was comfortable and we were comfortable installing it.
Okay, the other question I have is I noticed the symbol CO2E a couple of times. Is the E for emissions? What does the E stand for?
CO2 equivalent. So basically,
Okay.
yeah, CO2, methane, some of the VOCs that you can do an equation to figure out what the equivalency is to CO2.
Okay, are there other questions for Robert? There must be some.
Robert, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Kenneth.
Yeah, Robert, I think it's wonderful that you guys and your organization has been able to fill in the gaps that the city hasn't been able to accomplish in making sure that there's an equitable spread of parks across the city of Dallas. My question has to do, as you're probably well aware, the state is woefully inadequate as far as when it comes to the amount of state parkland we have. And what we do have is you got to call in 3 to 6 months in advance to get a campground. What is your group doing statewide to try and alleviate that situation, or do you mostly concentrate in urban areas?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's something that we're kind of trying to feel our way through right now. So we have a statewide history. We've been active in Texas for 40 years. We've done about 43,000 acres of parks across the state of Texas. Akona's Canyonlands State Natural Area, that was a Trust for Public Land project from the 80s. As our staff levels kind of varied over the years, we've really retrenched back to Dallas since I've been a member of the organization. But now we are looking statewide. So we're dipping our toe into Fort Worth. We've got a really exciting project working on there. And we just hired a land conservation project manager based in, as I mentioned earlier, New Braunfels. And her job is to go and look for these conservation opportunities across the state. So we're building relationships with Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. We're trying to understand where we could add the most value. But you're totally right. There's not enough. Texas is the lowest, has the lowest percentage of publicly held land in the country of all the states. It's like 5%, something like that. You compare that to Nevada, which is, I think, 65%, if I have that right. Which I'm not saying that's what Texas needs to be, but we could probably stand to have a few more state parks. I think we could all agree with that. One thing that does give me hope, a few years back, the legislature and then the voters of Texas ratified a constitutional amendment that would permanently dedicate the sales tax that comes off of the sale of sporting goods to go to Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, so that they can then fund the state parks at the level that needs to be funded at, and hopefully acquire more land for more state parks. One of the first projects that's going to benefit from that is Palapina Mountain State Park, just west of Weatherford and Mineral Wells. That's a beautiful piece of land, several thousand acres, that Parks and Wildlife Department purchased probably 15 years ago and has never had the money to develop. But now that the sporting goods sales tax initiative has passed, they are getting the funding they need to finally develop that into a state park property. So hopefully in the coming years, we'll all be getting to enjoy one more state park in the state of Texas to help alleviate some of that pressure.
Okay.
Carolyn, have a question? Carolyn Thornburg.
It just occurs to me that parks need upkeep and care and cleaning and all that. What kind of provisions do you have with your the people who are benefiting from this? Kind of input do they have as far as that's kind of?
Yeah. So working on the South of Cliff Renaissance Park, the park I showed that video for earlier, one of the great things was getting to work so closely with the school. There's a gentleman there named Derek Batty, former NBA basketball player who came back to his community and said, I want to be a part, and he got a job as a security guard at the school, and now he's the community liaison. He said, look, if we got kids in detention, if we got kids cutting up, they're not going to the detention hall. They're getting a trash bag and a trash grabber, and they're going across the
Oh, gosh.
And more seriously, though, the students are all required to complete, I think it's 200 hours of service before they graduate. And so the school is committed to having the students be a part of the general upkeep and care of the park as well.
Excellent. I just love everything you said today. This is so positive and wonderful. Thank you for talking with us and showing us what's going on. It's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure.
Robert, how long is the trail? I forgot, how long is it?
Well, we're proposing about 25 miles of new trails. Now it's going to be kind of a spider web. So, or maybe it's more helpful to think about it, a spine with ribs coming off it. So if that spine follows the creek, and all those ribs are all the little tributaries that feed off into it. So, in the next couple of years, we're focused on that spine piece first. That's the most important stretch, and that's about 8 miles.
Robert, when I worked at Parks and Wildlife, TPL did mostly urban work, and then the Nature Conservancy worked out in what you might call the wilds. Do you two organizations have any kind of interaction today?
Yeah, when Renee approached me to speak today, we had originally talked about me co-presenting with Kathy Jack, who is their Dallas program lead. Kathy is a great leader for TNC, and we got to know Renee by planting trees together. We planted like 1,000 trees together across Oak Cliff. So we do work with them in other parts of the country. Our real estate folks work really closely with them because sometimes we're trying to buy pieces of land that are just too big for one organization to tackle, and it's better to go in together and use your purchasing power that way. In terms of the urban-rural divide that you talked about, kind of like I said at the beginning, the thing that I think sets TPL apart from other organizations is everything we do is focused on how people can benefit and interact with it. So we're never going to buy a piece of land that's just going to sit as kind of a wilderness area that no one gets to touch. There's a role for that. That's important to do. We will always focus on, let's buy the piece of land that improves access so that folks can come out and enjoy it. Let's make sure that if we buy a piece of land, there's a plan to put, a parking lot there, some amenities there so people can get out and enjoy nature. Because I really believe that's so important to, if we're going to tackle these huge environmental issues we face, we've got to get people to reconnect with nature so they understand, the importance of it by experiencing it that way.
Great.
All right. More questions for Robert?
This is John Lingenfelder. I just wanted to note, we didn't cover it enough in our pre-meeting, and that is the Earth Day. And I was wondering if Liz or Arthur would be able to address that, because we'd certainly, I think, love to have the trust be part of that. Liz, what do you think? You're muted, by the way. Liz.
Sorry, I had to navigate to it. I had hidden myself. So you're talking about Oak Cliff Earth Day?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful, wonderful event coming up April 3rd. Correct me if I'm wrong. April 2nd, April 3rd. And I've gone off and on over the years. It's just an amazing community event in the park there. Renee's been there. I think some of the others too. Different booths of people who have environmental interest. Some are selling some things, but a lot of just good ideas, a lot of good people. Sierra Club's one of the main sponsors, and we will have a huge, we always have a booth, but it's basically an area by the edge of the meadow there. And we put up tents so the kids and everybody can come see about camping and talk to them about family camping and what it takes and who we are and what we do. I would encourage everyone to go, and the parking is around the park, but you can also, I think there's a little bit on the cross streets there. I know a couple of years ago when I went, it was difficult at first to find a parking space, which I just thought was kind of bothersome, but also wonderful. It's just that the event had gotten enough attention that was the case. So I would encourage everybody to do it. Wendell is working very hard with Memazine to make it just a wonderful event for all ages. I don't know. Go ahead.
I was going to say, lost my train of thought there. Oh, is there, did I understand correctly that this is probably going to be the premier Earth Day event in the Dallas area?
Last we heard, yes.
I think so.
It's
according to Wendell, yes.
Yeah, and there are others that have done, have some types of event, but this is just a truly good community-based event. So
that's the reason I was thinking that the trust might want to participate as well as having a booth there so that you can have more connection.
It'd be a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think if the trust is interested in that, Robert, you'd need to contact Wendell Withrow.
Okay.
Who works for the Memnocine Institute as well as being one of our principal people in the
Mhm.
Dallas Sierra Club.
Great. If Renee or someone
Okay.
could just share with me his contact information, we'll look into it.
Yeah,
I'll
and
get it to you.
I miss getting yours, but I can get it from Renee, and I'll be at Wendell's. I work with Wendell on Wednesdays, so I'll bug him tomorrow and give him a heads up.
And I'll send out my slide deck afterwards as well that has all my contact details in it.
Okay, thanks, Robert. Yeah, it was wonderful. They're also part of that event are speakers and musicians and people from the local community, politicians who talk about the importance of the community, but they're not allowed to say why people should vote for them, kind of thing. It's more just informational and bringing ideas. That's, and the music and the local music that's attractive to all types of people in the neighborhoods.
That's great.
It's just a lot of fun. There's some food trucks that usually are set up.
Oh, yes, around the perimeter. I remember.
Oh, yeah. There's,
That's-
food trucks and the bee lady and just,
Oh,
you
yeah.
buy
yeah.
little things for your home if you need a certain kind of birdhouse or something. And just a great community event. And then there's a great big lawn, so kids will be kicking around balls and things like that.
And late April in Texas is about the best time to be outdoors.
Yeah, it's actually early April. It's not
Yeah.
Earth Day weekend because
okay.
there are actually so many, oftentimes there have been other events that are planned that actual weekend. So
Right. Cool.
John, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's the 3rd. Let me look.
It's the third.
It's
Sunday.
the
Yes.
Yeah, the 3rd. I just want to say, Robert, one of the things when I saw the title of the program of your presentation, and I was thinking, oh, this has to do with similar to the Nature Conservancy, and I'm just so happily surprised that it's urban. I mean, to hear about the parks, 5 Mile Creek project is just really amazing to me, because I live up in Plano and we have a really nice series of parks that are all contiguous to one another and have a very long trails plus offshoots as well. So
Yeah,
hopefully
Plano's
in
got
South
Plano's
South
great
Dallas
park
they can do something the same. That would be great.
Yeah. Plano's got a beautiful park system.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oak Point.
Robert, I won't do it now, but I may contact you to see what lands or places might be a really great fit for our outreach program.
Yeah.
The whole idea is to get, as I mentioned earlier, the kids into the outdoors that without us learning that opportunity.
So important.
Exactly. So we may touch base later about that too.
Please. Thank you.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions for Robert about his program or the TPL? Nothing? Going once?
It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks a lot, Robert, for the presentation. It was very interesting. And I really didn't know how active TPL was in the Dallas area until tonight, which is kind of a sad comment, really.
My pleasure to be here. And Renee, thank you for the invitation, and thanks to the rest of the group for listening. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon, maybe at Oak Cliff Earth Day.
Great. We look forward to it.
That
Thank
would be
you.
great.
Thank you, Robert.
Thanks, Robert.
Good night.
Oh, that I would think that you might want to have a booth at Oak Cliff Earth Day.
Yeah, clearly it'll be around the right folks with
Yes.
the right attitude.
Yes.
That's exactly right. Okay, well, in the absence of further questions, basically this program is over. I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank John Lingenfelder for hosting.
My
John,
pleasure.
probably be willing to hang around for a while if people want to talk to each other now after we formally close the meeting. Would
Yes,
you-
I'll be here.
He'll be here.
I will.
You all need to converse. But
Okay.
as for myself, I am checking out now, and good night to everybody. And thanks again, Robert.
Good night,
Thank you,
Daniel.
Robert.
Good night.
Y'all take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Say Renee.
Hey,
I'm
good job,
here.
Renee. Renee, do you and I need to touch base about the District 8 get together on Saturday, or is that?
If you, I found out that that thing meets once a month, every month. And
Okay.
this would just be my first one.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you can't get the information to me for Saturday, we can do it for the next month.
Okay, it made me go and just kind of get a feel for the group.
Yeah, let me go to the meeting. When I
Yeah.
thought about it, let me go and see what's going on, and
Okay.
if that's the place for it. I can't imagine that it's not, because what we're looking for is ways to communicate.
Wonderful.
So,
And I'll look on our on the national website too, and see if I can't get a copy of, I'm hoping they updated our brochure.
Mhm.
And it might be that I could just send you that and you could just take a couple of copies to have for your own reference.
Mhm.
If you're talking.
And
to someone.
sometimes in view of the outings that you do, some of the I would say, let's not forget the things that are around real close,
Yeah.
because the kids, they
definitely.
just don't go outside like that. They're afraid of bugs. They're afraid of this. Something's going to fly on me, and
Welcome
and
to
I
our
think,
world.
yeah. And I think that
Yep.
if they just had an opportunity to do a nature trail here,
Oh, yeah.
first, if there's a 101 and then they progress up to the Big Bend, I think there's some opportunities for
Oh, no,
that
yeah.
too.
Big Bend is not in the immediate future for ICO. That's a trip that we do like once every 10 years when we get special funding.
But like Trinity River Forest,
Exactly.
Places like that, just a little field trip like that, so they can see some flowers.
Yeah, those are our
things like
usual.
that.
Yeah, those are our usual stomping grounds. And
Mhm.
we'll take a group there, 3 or 4 times with the kids before we'll even like do an overnight or something. Yeah, no, we definitely just do.
And I don't know if they still do it or not, but Thursday night was what was called Owl Prowl. But you had to wait till it got dark, and you had a guide, and the guide would show you the different owls and everything.
Yeah. And they do that, I don't know, with the cost, and for us to rent a van and then go take them for 1 hour. It wasn't as much of a, cost effective, but anyway, we'll chat.
Yeah, I did. I went on my own, and it was really fun, but I got a little freaked because I have this thing with spiders, and they got some serious spiders out there, that he was shining the flashlight on them. And I was like, oh my God, what if he didn't have a flashlight?
No, that's what you do. We have little black light flashlights. And so you shine them on things in the dark in the woods, and you see things that are fluorescent, and you see where the animals have peed during the day.
Yeah, I can handle that. I mean, but this,
we'll get you out, Renee.
But I went down there when they first opened up, and my pastor, Father Tim, used to go too. And I mean, it's just amazing to be. But what overwhelms some people is the safety, because you look up at some points. I was on the trail alone, and you wonder, are you safe? Are you, those kind of things, because we're so into the box of being safe, because there are always so many things happening. But I think as a group, that would be fun. Now I'm supposed to send his email. What I'm going to do is take his email, send it to you. I'll just CC everybody, and that way Wendell will have it, you will have it.
Good idea.
John, how about that?
Yeah.
I'll just send him something, and I'll CC everybody on it.
That'll be great.
I want to quickly ask Dick.
Yeah.
Hey, did Merrick ever email you?
Yes, I got it today, and I took some notes tonight. I think if he would talk to Robert, Robert could be a big help in almost every area that he was asking about, and I'll call him tonight, talk to him about it.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what he was getting in touch with you about. He just said, hey, do you know this guy?
Oh.
I said, yeah, I do.
Well, he's looking for ways that the Audubon Society in Texas, which he's president of, can work with more sponsors to do more things. And I think in a cooperative activity with Robert, it'd be a perfect matchup.
I'll be darned, because I was thinking it was going to have something to do with TI, since he's a
well, that was the main thing. We both worked together in the early 80s.
Oh, okay.
We didn't see each other for 45 years or something, 40 years. Except that I asked him about something to do with the Sierra Club about 3 or 4 years ago, and he was helpful. So I hope to be helpful to him, and maybe we can build another bridge that way too. I
think so.
One idea to help him with this, with the TI, one contact there.
Oh,
so thanks for forwarding that on.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm glad to get you guys connected, because we've got our president of our Audubon Society, Mike Cameron's also a current TI employee.
Oh,
yeah.
Mike
Cameron.
Oh, the president of the Audubon Society, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good. That's a better contact than mine. I'll make sure he knows that.
Oh, well, Merrick knows that? Oh, Merrick and Mike are good friends.
Okay.
But Mike is a incredible photographer. He has some absolutely phenomenal pictures of birds. And he's posting them all the time on Instagram and I think Facebook.
Oh, I probably seen it, didn't know who it was.
Might not have. And they have I'll tell you what, that's one group that is really super active, and that is the Audubon, local Audubon. They have outings continuously. They've really cut back since the pandemic started.
Hey, have you guys seen the eagle at White Rock Lake?
I haven't been down there, no.
I saw it today with my grandson.
I thought I heard about something like that.
It's at Buckner, and I can't think what the name of that is, but it has a nest that's about 25 feet from Buckner Boulevard.
No.
And it's there in the morning, and it was there this afternoon about 4 o'clock. And it's been seen out on the lake and that sort of thing, of course, during the day.
Fishing, huh?
Not Garland, it's up one street north, a pretty big street.
That is so neat. It's a bald eagle.
Another thing too, I don't know if you know, but Kirk Miller has a screech owl nesting in the side, in a screech owl house on the side of his house. It's a 2-story house overlooking his garden to protect him from squirrels now.
Oh man, I want one of those. I have seen some things on Facebook about Screech Owl Boxes. And I was thinking, and I've heard some people in the neighborhood talk about it where I live. So I got to look into that. I'd like to have a screech owl.
Well, he said that. Yeah, so would we. We had one in the backyard a few years ago, and it was sitting on the fence. And you tell them about the crows.
It just visited. It wasn't living back there. But one day we looked out and there was a screech owl in the middle of our fence, sitting on the fence, and there was a crow on each side. Evidently, the screech owl had been threatening the crow's nests.
Right.
And it was the funniest thing. A crow on this side would kind of
poke at him.
Poke at the screech owl, and he'd look over there, and the crow would back up. And the screech owl was little, and these crows were big.
Oh yeah, about 3 times size.
On this side would come and kind of poke at it, and then it'd look at that crow, and the crow would back up.
Yeah, dynamite comes in small packages.
Yes.
Oh, I'll tell you what, Mike had some photographs of a pair of great horned owls that he just got this week. And where did he? Oh, he's all over the place because he lives out in Wiley. Where I think he said in Richardson.
Did he ever?
One of the last Earth Days I went to Earthdale Cliff. I went to. They had a bird of prey exhibit, and I wonder if they're going to be out there. They had falcons and they had hawks. My mother's street right now by Bishop Dunn, they're having trouble with red-tailed hawks.
Trouble? What can be trouble with red-tailed hawks?
Well, they're picking up cats. They're picking up squirrels.
Well, they're not big enough to get cats unless they're small kittens.
Well, this one was small. They picked up a squirrel, and I felt so sorry for it. We saw
squirrels. It's a furry-tailed rat. Let them have them.
Have we ever had him give a show? Would he make a good speaker for the Sierra Club with his photography?
Oh, I'm trying to think. I'll have to ask him. Renee, what would make a great show? And Galen did this for the Audubon, but he did a trip down to Cuba. I think 4 years ago. And his pictures of Cuba were not just of birds. Because I got to tell you, these programs for the Audubon, I mean, it's bird focused.
So do you know Mike Cameron or Galen? Renee?
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't think I do. I don't think I do.
I mean,
with respect to the Audubon, my priest, Father Tim, told me one time he retired last summer. And as he retired, he took, he's an avid bird watcher. He showed me on the side of the building that we use for the pantry, and it was a little sack hanging down. And he said, "Do you know what that is?" And I was like, I don't know what that is. He said it was a hummingbird nest. And Father Tim in October turned 86. And he said, "I've only seen 3 of those in my life." And it was hanging down off one of our trees.
When you say a little sack,
it's like a little bag or something.
Huh.
And it was hummingbird nests. I'd never seen one. He said he's only seen one 3 times in his life. He said the last time he saw it, he took it to the Audubon Society and they had it on display in a little glass case.
Nice.
That must be some special kind of a hummingbird, because normally they're just like the size of like big.
A teaspoon. Yeah, it was small. It was small. I mean,
okay.
You'd have to know what you were looking at, because anybody else would have thought it was just something to brush off the tree.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've seen a couple of them, and wow, that is incredible. And we have hummingbird around here, but during the season, but I've never seen a nest. I know those suckers around somewhere. By the way, Renee, you owe me time to show you how to do Zoom.
Yes, we do. We keep getting.
It's only been 6 months since you said, I want to learn how to do it.
Almost a year, probably. Let's see. Well, Wednesdays are good. Mondays are good too.
Oh, okay.
If we could start it next week. I have a meeting in the morning over the phone at 8 with Tanel Atkins, because we meet every other week for updates. So maybe we can start it next week.
That would be good.
Yeah, that would be
I guess I'll have to resend the email about what to do first.
Okay. That would be helpful.
I've only sent it to you 3 times.
But I'm gonna go and get this time I'm putting it in favorites. That way I know it won't go anywhere. Okay. So I'm gonna go and get my questions that I have for him and update.
Oh yes, please do.
But
please
you guys, it was wonderful seeing, especially my favorite couple back there.
Yes.
It was nice seeing you guys.
Renee, before you get off, I don't know who's planning all the attenders at our booth on Earth Day Oak Cliff, and maybe we haven't started working on that yet, but in the past, Tamika and her husband helped out one year and had a blast. I think it was there, or it was at some other function for the Sierra Club. And
I think they did that thing in Waxahachie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. But I bet you they would take a shift and enjoy that. And Olinka probably would like to do that too. If we just asked her if we could get that on their calendar for that day.
Yeah.
So
the commission's going to be there. So Tamika will probably be there, but I'm going to ask her specifically, is she going to be there? And do you know how I can get in touch with Olinka? I keep losing track of her.
Okay, I will send you her phone number. Her email is still the same, but
just text me the phone number and I'll call her.
Yeah. Okay.
And see what she wants to do. Well, that was great. Yeah. He's always I met him about the time I ran into Tony, what's his name? Corey Corey Toriani. They were all out. I was at Earth Day at the Fair Park. I used to go every year. And sometimes Parkland would have a booth, but most of the time I was not doing a booth. I was just going from booth to booth, getting things for myself, trees and seeds and all kind of things. And it's really a really good event. I hate it that it's going to be canceled, but it's going to work in our favor. But I hate it they were canceling that. But that with COVID, that's just too many people. That's too many people. That thing would pull like 10,000 people a day.
Oh, yeah. It'd be kind of neat is to invite Trammell to have a booth at our Earth Day.
That would be.
They might do it.
Yeah.
I
suggest that to Wendell.
I will. I'll suggest that.
Yeah. Because a lot of people in the Sierra Club are very familiar with and friends with Trammell.
Yeah, he was actually, okay. I met one of his, when I was out there, I met one of the guys working with him and we were talking. He actually bought me a hot dog and we sat and talked. I'll ask Wendell. I'll ask him that because I've got some things to send him to. But I'm going to jump off so I can get these questions ready. But thank you all for participating, and I hope everybody enjoyed him.
Good. Tell
certainly did.
A big booth.
Okay.
We love it. Great idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night, Renee.
Good night.
Good night.